to the first prequel episode of Big Rig Family. We've got a couple issues. Mostly, well, we've always wanted to do the prequels, talk about kind of how we got started, and of course, especially Lugnut's early days in the truck. He was so cute when he was little. But this needs to happen now, though, because my hard drive crashed, and I'm so lucky that it's actually all my data is recoverable. But part of that data is about 2 months worth of trucking videos that I still haven't edited. So we're going to get those back hopefully very soon. But in the meantime, we're going to kind of go back and talk about our beginnings. And so this particular episode is about all of the years before Lugnut came around. Actually, that would have taken too long. So what we're going to do is a quick overview of Milkman's career before I came along, and then the first 2 years where we were driving mostly together. You'll see that at the end of it, we were driving separate vehicles. So no montage today because I never took any pictures out of the window. I just took pictures, a few pictures here and there of us inside. Anyway, so why don't you tell us about getting your license? How did you get your license?
I got my license when I was a senior in high school. I got it. I took it as a high school class.
Milkman School was also a vocational school. So you were the only high school student, or were there others?
No, I was. Everybody else was adults. I was the only one. And
so the class was a full semester, or no?
No, it was only a half semester because I took it twice. I took it, of course I had my license and everything, but since it was since I was taking it as a high school class, I had to do it all over again. And then I kind of became like the teacher's aide. And that's when the embarrassing moment where, the teacher was talking about, you got to be really careful with the fifth wheel grease. He's like, it will spread like wildfire. See, I was a good teacher's assistant because I demonstrated how it spread so fast. I was covered in it. I don't know. I think my hand somehow, I don't know, it must have been when we were hooking or disconnecting or something. I ended up with grease on my hand. And so I think I went to wipe it. Next thing I was covered in it. I was so covered in grease, he sent me home. He goes, there's nothing more to do with you. You're a disaster. You just got to go home and try to get clean. So, but yeah, he wasn't kidding. It did spread like wildfire. So,
how did you spend those first 20 years of your driving career? What was the main theme of those 20 years?
The main thing back then was tankers, either hauling chemicals in or hauling waste out. But it was just, there were so many tankers, they were everywhere. So yeah, my first part of my driving was all tankers.
And that's in fact where we met, was at a chemical company where Milkman was a driver and I worked in the office. And so it was meant to be. And so then we were engaged, we were getting ready to be married, and we decided that I should get my license. I went to school. I went to Dutzen School of Trucking. I got my license. Now what?
We bought a truck.
Okay, so we bought an International 9200. It was gold. It was a former CRST truck. All right, so our first job together was being owner-operators for CRST. And of course, our truck fit right in. We were owner-operators. Yeah. Everybody thought that we were a lease purchase.
Yeah.
And we weren't. We purchased it from a Volvo dealership. Freightliner. So we worked with CRST for about 8 months. And CRST, they're not so huge anymore.
Yeah.
But they were one of the mega carriers like Swift and Knight and CR England. They were up there, and you needed something like that when you were a brand new driver the way I was. Nobody would hire a brand new driver except for one of these mega carriers. And the reason we chose CRST is that they allowed Milkman to be my trainer. So we drove there for about 8 months, and this was, I did get a lot of experience driving over Donner, like we've got these pictures over Donner. I was always a computer person, so I always had my computer. This is my first laptop. I also had a printer. We did have it was a special card that went into a special slot in the laptop. You can see it right down here. All it did was connect that computer to the internet through Verizon. Verizon was then and is still our cell phone provider. It wasn't too bad. Things worked somewhat well. But then, that's kind of their MO, is that they'll start you off strong, and then when they think you're comfortable and that you want to stick around, they'll tell you that, things start slowing down a little bit. I think we ended up in the Portland area, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
For a long weekend. I think it was July 4th weekend. And so we started looking around for someone else. Van Pack!
Oh, Van Pack.
Yeah, it was Van Pack.
That's right.
They did reefers and they were...
in Massachusetts.
They were based in Massachusetts. And it was a way smaller company. I got to know all of the people working. In fact, I'm still a Facebook friend with one of the gals who used to work in the office there. They did reefer, and so they went back and forth, mostly from Southern California or somewhere in California to the Northeast.
Yeah.
And then they also paid very low rate per mile. And they said that it was okay because they got so many miles. We got so many miles. But we didn't get a lot of miles because we spent so much time picking up loads, and then on the other time we wasted so much time sitting waiting for that. So we didn't stay long there. We stayed for maybe 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
And while we were at Van Pack, we ended up stopping at my parents' house. They were having a party, and so they and all of their friends got to check out our new lifestyle. My parents and their friends are all professionals, and so they don't necessarily have a lot of experience with anybody in the world of trucking. So we gave them a tour of the truck, and they all came in. Obviously not everybody fits, but I think pretty much everybody climbed into the truck and looked at what it looked like. So these are a couple of pictures of my mom in the driver's seat. And then here's another photo of a handful of their friends. There were more of them there, but these are the ones that wanted to take a picture. I'm wearing the black dress, and Milkman is way over there on the right with a cup in his hand. It was fun showing them our lifestyle, and they all got a kick out of the truck. Some of these people to this day watch these videos because I know my mom doesn't watch the videos, but she'll tell me about something that she heard about from one of her friends. So, hi, Trail Dusters. And then we went to Dot Line.
Okay, that's when we went to Dot Line. Oh my gosh. And what we did, we were there for a week or something, right? I mean, we did.
It was 3 weeks.
3 weeks, guy. It was a LTL company.
Mm-hmm. And they were all doubles. Now we see Dot Lines around. They're still around, but
it's not the same company anymore.
Yeah, they're mostly 53 footers, but we only did doubles, and we went to New Jersey.
Yeah.
And they were great. They paid really well, but then we had a personal issue. All right, so the personal issue was that we needed to take custody of Milkman's son, Milkman Jr. So we needed to keep trucking. We didn't have anything else that we could do. We owned a truck. We had to pay the bills. And so we moved in with Milkman's brother and enrolled Milkman Jr. in the school down there. And then we got a job. We were company drivers for Cardinal.
Yeah.
So what did we do? We hauled pet food from their location somewhere in Southern California to
Quartzsite is where we were switching at.
To Quartzsite, and then we would drop and hook with somebody who was coming from Phoenix. We would just meet the other driver, and then swap our trailers, and then go back. We could only do one per night. But then
we had to do deliveries.
On our way back, we would sometimes make deliveries at some PetSmarts that were
every
along the way.
time. It was every time we made deliveries.
It was not every single time,
no.
but it started to become pretty much every time. And I think the final straw, right? We have a 14-hour rule where we are not, once we start driving, 14 hours later, we better be done unless we've gotten a 10-hour break in there. And they scheduled you a delivery that was right there at that 14-hour mark. So how were you supposed to get home?
Yeah.
And so we were not in the same truck at that point. I was in one truck, he was in a different truck. But we had radios and we were in communication with each other the whole way, because I was really nervous being all by myself.
Well, on the way back we weren't, because
because you had to go to your place and I had to go to my place. I guess Junior didn't like that school.
No.
He was 17 at the time, and everything was really difficult. What we had planned to do with moving in with your brother, going to that school, working that local job, none of it was working. And so you got our truck back up and running, and you leased on to Moonlight Express.
Yeah.
Very small company, basically run by one guy who was driving one of the trucks, and you loved it.
Yeah.
You loved it. And tell us more about it.
What am I supposed to tell?
Well, first of all, were you alone in the truck, or did I go with you?
No, Junior was with me.
And what had happened? Something had happened to our air conditioning.
Oh.
So we had no air conditioning in the truck. And where were you driving?
We were going from Bakersfield to Houston, Texas.
And
then from Houston, Texas.
Wait, what were you hauling?
Ice cream.
Okay.
And then
how cold is ice cream?
-20. So the whole time we had no air conditioning running across there. It was summertime the whole time. So yeah. And once you got past Dallas, it would just take your breath away once you hit that wall with that humidity. It would just come on, and then you would just be drenched, and you would be like that for quite a bit of the trip from there, because from there we would go to
San
Antonio area, and we would pick up chickens. So we had to sit out there, because during the day they would slaughter the chickens, and then they would be ready to go on the trailer that evening. So yeah, and then pick those up and go back to Southern California.
We couldn't even fathom at the time 3 people in a truck. So you just went out.
Yeah.
And it was my turn to find a job. I tried looking around for any kind of job, office job, this job, that job. I actually found a job hauling ice for an ice company. But what happened was you were super excited about Moonlight. You loved it. But then what happened?
He had to close down.
We still don't know why.
Yeah.
1 week he was looking to expand, and the next week he was shutting down.
Yeah.
And did we want to buy one of his reefer trailers? So with no one and no plan, Milkman used to always plan ahead. If something goes wrong, where would I go? but he never assumed that anything would go wrong with this guy, and so he had no plan. And so in the middle of the summer, we got our own authority for the very first time. Yeah, so we got our authority. We had no idea what we were doing. So we bought a trailer, a really old one. It was a piece.
Yeah.
But it did the trick. We started hauling loads for C.H. Robinson. They were the biggest broker out there. The reason we hauled for them and the reason people sometimes get stuck with them is, well, I don't think so anymore. Back then, they were kind of the only broker that had their own in-house factoring. So they would offer for like 2.5%. It was pretty cheap. They would pay you within a day or 2 days or whatever it was, as opposed to waiting 30 days. So, and that's what you need when you're brand new. And so that's what we started doing. In the meantime, I was hauling ice for this ice company. I was home every day. I would try to get to sleep. We had moved out of our apartment into our property that we purchased that was off grid. And then, yeah, you were hauling loads just kind of wherever. And then Hurricane Katrina hit, and I went out there to Katrina. For those of you who maybe don't remember, Hurricane Katrina was just this huge, huge disaster that happened in 2005. And the entire city of New Orleans flooded. They needed ice. I went into work at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Friday morning. They said, "Ski Babe, will you go?" And I said, sure. But I had been awake since 2 o'clock in the morning. I do remember specifically that the night before I got really bad sleep. And I kept stressing out over not being able to sleep. And I thought, who cares? I'm going to go into work, do my job, and come home. And little did I know, I got back from hauling 2 loads up. There were 2 really short loads that I did for my regular routine. And then I tried to get some sleep. I got maybe an hour, 2-hour nap. And off I went to Katrina. And I had to get there as a solo in a day cab by Sunday at noon. They threatened not to take our load if we didn't arrive by Sunday at noon. And I arrived Sunday at 11:30. And we had 2 other guys who went together, so they were driving as a team, and they didn't make it. But they still allowed them. I was just like, how did you guys, you were a team, I was solo. And let me tell you, I was pretty scary out there. I was hallucinating. It was not good. But that's what happens. It was perfectly legal. All hours of service go out the door. All right. So what I mean by that is that when there's a natural disaster and they desperately need trucks in a specific place, they will actually let us drivers drive way over the hours of service. And I mean, pretty much. At this time, I don't know if it's still the case. It did not matter how long you had been driving. It's not that they gave you 2 extra hours or 5 extra hours. They did not look at my logbook at all. The whole time out there, I got maybe, I think, 2 or 3 half-hour naps. And then I kept going. And Milkman had taught me all kinds of tricks to keep your mind active, doing math and kind of calculating money and stuff like that. And that actually really did help me. What I was unprepared for was that I actually had a map book, a trucker map book with me, even though I never needed something like this because my ice company had 3 customers that I went to and I knew how to get to all 3 of them. Back then, there weren't smartphones. GPS had been invented, but we didn't have them in our vehicles. And certainly there wasn't a trucker GPS that would tell trucks how to get places. And so I just went off of the map. And what I didn't realize was that a lot of the signs had been blown down in the hurricane. And so you would see an exit, but you would have absolutely no idea what exit it was, where you were, if that's what you were supposed to be taking. And so it was, I was really lucky that I got to where I was supposed to go. And I'm sorry these photos are so bad. So this is how one way I can tell that these photos are, that this was still the film era of our life. I took all kinds of photos. It was many years later that I had the film developed. And by then it had degraded a lot because of living in the heat and stuff like that. That's why the photos turned out so badly. And so there was a lot of destruction that I saw. Here you can also see my paper in the window that basically told any law enforcement that I was headed to New Orleans and that they should leave me alone. And so here's the first place that I got to where they were just, I mean, the trucks were lined up all over the place. And I stayed there for about a week, and they even let me get in front of all the other truckers because I was in a day cab. And they knew I couldn't, I had nowhere to sleep. They had showers for us. They had like a trailer that was for showers. And they also, of course, you can see here, they had food trucks. They had all kinds of stuff set up for us. You know, we became a little bit of a community. Everybody was helping everybody out. And these guys, this is my truck that I drove in, and I can't remember what happened. I had a bunch of oil going all over the place. My very last engine check before I arrived here, I had some sort of problem. And so these are just other drivers helping me out. YouTube was launched a couple months after this happened. And of course, there weren't any smartphones. So you were really out of luck. You were listening to the radio, or you were listening, or, you know, you could read a book. Even if you had your computer, I didn't have an inverter in this truck. I mean, you were hard pressed for entertainment back in the day. So I ended up spending a lot of time with all of the National Guard people who had been brought in from all over the country to help with this situation. And here's just a picture of us hanging out together. So I spent about a week at this first staging spot. And the entire time that I was there, I had nowhere to sleep. So I slept over my steering wheel. I just kind of put my arms up on the steering wheel and then just slept like that. And the first 3 days, it was fine because I was so tired from being so sleep deprived. But after that, my back started to really hurt from sleeping like that. And so eventually when they said, okay, it's your turn to go somewhere else, I was very excited because I said to myself, along the way, I am going to find something to sleep in, like a sleeping bag or a sheet or whatever it takes. And I did get myself a sleeping bag. And that second place that I went, I only spent one night there, and it was some kind of military facility. And I slept on a concrete slab. And let me tell you, that was the most comfortable concrete slab I had ever slept on because it was at least flat. And the next day, that place sent me somewhere else, and they sent me to the place that I actually finally ended up offloading my ice. There was a fire station right there, and so I can't remember if I was delivering at the fire station or what the deal was, but they had an extra cot for me, and so I was able to sleep on a cot, and so having that sleeping bag was really, really helpful. And then I ended up spending about a week there delivering all of my ice because they couldn't take it all at once. And so my boss said, can you please just stay there until they've got it all offloaded? And I said, sure, so I basically left the reefer running 24/7, to keep the ice cold. And then every day we would take off 2 pallets at a time. We would take some off in the morning, and then they would take some more off. So this is the back of my trailer, and this is how they did it. They had, I think it's a cable, and they would just pull the pallets to the back. And then these are some of my buddies from the fire station. They were really, really nice people. And they were, we all had a good time hanging out. At night, there was nothing to do but just hang out, and I think they were usually drinking beers, but I don't remember drinking at all. This was actually probably the most rewarding experience I had as a truck driver, because you could see all these people. You actually saw the people who were desperate for ice and for supplies and for everything, and here you were able to provide it for them. So that was the best part of that experience. But so our next video will start at 2006 and we will continue from there. So thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.